family and friends. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm glad that you are joining me, Romeo Parks Weekly, for another edition of Faith Evolution. I'm looking forward to having another important, vitally important conversation about the intersection of faith and real conversations that unfortunately we don't do a very good job of having in the church. So I'm very excited because we have somebody joining tonight who is committed to this question, right? And the question that we're discussing tonight is church hurt real? And my guest is committed not only to the answer to this question, but to what it says about us, about who we are, and about how to live into that in community. And so this is my sister and my friend. She's affectionately known as Pastor D, Reverend Dionne Boyice. Began her ministry in 2007 as a student chaplain at a local hospital. She has experience serving as a chaplain for college campuses, for hospice and assisted living facilities. And she's also been a senior pastor within both the United Church of Christ as well as the Disciples of Christ Christian Church denominations. For her Master of Divinity thesis in 2017, Dr. Dionne planted the ministry that's known as Whosoever Community of Faith, faith being an acronym that means finding answers in the healing, finding answers in the healing. God called her to plant this ministry for those who have been hurt, who have been shamed, shunned, who've been morally injured by the church and other religious spaces. Simply for being who they are, right? Simply for loving who they love, for what they've done or for what they believe. But this space is for them. This space is also for the people who love them, right? Because we want our allies to also come out of those harmful and toxic spaces and be in covenant and community with those spaces that affirm us. And so this space is also for them. Whosoever became the first ministry of its kind within the Kansas City metro area, both in Kansas and Missouri. It's the first one of its kind to be led by a person of color who themselves, or in her case, who herself openly identifies as LGBTQ+. Whosoever has remained on the path to effective ministry by focusing on their theology on spiritual growth, kingdom building, and wholeness healing. Pastor D graduated from Central Seminary in 2002 and achieved her Doctor of Ministry degree with her wife, Leandra, by her side. This power couple, y'all, this power couple's commitment to God and to their community enabled them to build a congregation of 1,300 plus virtual members. I want to be like that when I grow up. Right? In May of 2024, whosoever was blessed by securing a physical place, a physical space dedicated to God with doors that open to a home for worship, for gathering, for praise, and for more. And so it is my pleasure. It is my privilege to welcome to the stage my guest, my sister, Reverend Dr. Dionne Boyice. Greetings, my sister. Greetings. Hey
Greetings. How are you? Yes.
I am
Good to
pretty
see
good.
you.
Thank you. I'm pretty good.
Good to see you.
Thank you for joining me. Hey, I hope is there perhaps a delay on
Yes, good.
before you get to me?
Absolutely.
Can you hear me right now?
I can hear you right now.
Okay. So
I can
okay.
hear
So I
you
think
right now.
there is possibly a delay. Okay. So maybe if you try refreshing your window and bringing you back into the room, it might clear out that delay. So I'm going to take you out, and then when I see you come back, I'll bring you right back in, and then we'll see if we can move forward without the delay. All right, I'll see you in just a second. All right, so anyway, I look so forward to having this conversation with my friend because she has really been on the front line of doing this work in Kansas City, Missouri, and in providing this necessary space for people who have experienced, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself with the answer to this question, right? To people who have experienced church hurt. And so I really look forward to what you'll be able to contribute to this conversation. So welcome back, Pastor D. Can you hear me now?
D, can you hear me now? I can hear you.
All right.
I
Amen.
can
All
hear
right.
you. Yes.
So thank you so much for your willingness to be a part of this important conversation, because unfortunately I just don't think the church is having it enough. And so I've read your bio, but share in your own words just a little about who Dionne is.
I am going to try to. You asked me who is Dionne. You want me to
Yes.
tell you who Dionne?
Yes.
So I am basically someone that grew up in that Black church, um, loving God, loving people, wanting God to love me, wanting people to love me for who I am, and decided that I wanted to own my own construction company, and I wanted God to help me do that. But of course, God make plans. God has the true plan, right? So what happened was I became interested in social work. So I went to school to be a social worker. I continued as I worked with people socially. I realized that who I was as far as a follower of those things about Christ, I couldn't help people. I thought I wanted to help them. Social worker. Um, so somehow, some way, I received full ride scholarship to seminary. God made it possible for me
Awesome.
to receive a full ride scholarship to seminary for my master's of divinity after I got my bachelor's of social work at Park University. Um, Central Seminary gave me a full ride. I finished that master's degree, but 2 weeks before I finished that master's degree, they came to me and said, "Do you want to be a part of the doctoral program?" So as I contemplated or felt, I don't really want school, other plans. And so I went ahead and finished um, my doctorate at Central Seminary. So part of my Master's of Divinity project was to create and plant Whoso a Divinity project. That's how Whosoever got started. And I've just continued to be Dionne, leading the ministry that I know God gave me to plant. So I'm a lover of people. I hate to see people not treated well or equally. And so it shows in who I am as a follower of Christ and a lover of people. So, yeah.
Amen. And you are, yes, a follower of Christ and a lover of people. And what's sad is that those two things have to even be distinguished, because you would think that if you are a follower of Christ, you are a lover of people. But unfortunately, that doesn't always play out at ground level in real life, right? So thank you for exemplifying that for the community. I was thinking about church names, right? And how oftentimes we name our churches trendy names that are catchy because it sounds cute, and we're very flashy and showy in the church. But something tells me that the name of your church, Whosoever Community of Faith, finding answers in the healing, wasn't just about a catchy name, a cute name. It actually bore meaning. So tell us a little more about why that name.
Yeah. So John 3:16, came to mind immediately um, when I heard God calling me to plant a church. Why? Because that scripture talks about Christ sacrificing his life for whosoever,
Yeah.
which meaning all and anyone. And so I said, I really want this ministry to reach out, touch, and be available to whosoever um, needs that space, wants a space to worship safely. And so whosoever came from John 3:16. Now, community of faith, when we first began this ministry, faith was an acronym for finding answers in the hurt. After several years of that, my wife and I said, well, we really want to be healing. We don't want to continue in the hurt. So we changed it to finding answers in the healing. And so that's what we move forward in with whosoever. Whosoever wants to be walked through, needs to be, hoping to be healed through all kinds of hurt, harm, dysfunction, whatever that may be. We're walking in healing. So that's where the name whosoever, John 3:16, and then we want to heal what we need to heal in order to continue to become closer to Christ and be better disciples. So yeah.
I love that progressive revelation of and progressive evolution of your church in terms of starting out with finding answers in the hurt, because that's kind of where you start out, being able to create a space for people who are
Yeah.
hurting, but you don't want that
Right.
to just be the whole journey. You kind of letting them
Right.
know that's just the beginning of the journey, but where we
That's
want you to end
exactly.
is healed and whole. So
Yes.
I love that progression, finding answers.
Yes.
But now hurt though, hurt
Mm.
people, but hurt by their families, hurt by their jobs, hurt by the government, but surely not hurt by the church. I've noticed that there are people who I am, uh, let's just say we're social media buddies, right? But they have in some ways become apologists for the church, where the church can do no wrong. And so when we talk about
Mm.
concepts like church hurt, there are people who absolutely don't believe that church hurt exists. And so, what would you say to people who claim that, well, you may be hurt, but the church didn't hurt you? People in the church may have hurt you, but that's called people hurt, not church hurt. Church hurt doesn't exist. What would you say to them?
Mm. Well, a piece of what you just said and what they might believe is real. The people in the church hurt you. We know that the church, being a building on the corner, is not what hurts us. But if we know what the big C church is, which is the body of Christ, which includes the people, that's where that hurt comes from. And so if a person can hurt me any other kind of way, they can hurt me through the spirit, my spiritual connections with
Mhm.
them, trusting that they're going to take care of. Church hurt is very real. Um, we don't we people say if you let the people of the going for the right reason. Well, who wants to go
Mhm.
to a place or a space that continues to hurt you deliberately with their words, with their actions? I mean, anybody. I would think anybody. I don't want to say in your right mind, but anybody that understands what hurt actually is doesn't. Who wants to continue to go through that, right? So church hurt is extremely real. It's just as real as me falling off my bike. It hurts. It hurts the innermost parts of my soul. Why? I believe it's this way. Church and our pastors and our leaders are and overseers, right? Are the people that represent God for us. The, the spirit within us connects to the spirit that is within us and a part of us, and that hurts. So Church hurt comes from people. Church hurt don't come from the pews. Church hurt comes from the people in the church. But it does not come from the people of the church, meaning the people of the big C church, the body of Christ. If you understand what the body of Christ is and what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to uplift, and how we are supposed to be disciples together, then you don't hurt your siblings. We hear it all the time. Church hurt is not real. You can't, like you said, the church didn't hurt you. The people did. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. But because we are a part of the church, this church, and these people are sitting crazy to me and saying whatever and damning me to hell. People are saying this. That's church hurt. So it's just, if I was in the workplace, that would be harassment. That would be whatever you want to call it. But we in church. And so we're in spiritual spaces. And you're hurting me. You're hurting me with your words and your actions.
And to add that another layer to this, like, I mean, to me, unless you're like brand new in the church, you've been hurt at some point, right? By the people in the church. But I think about, like, even on a deeper level, how there are times that I have been, how do I put it, engaged with church communities, and it wasn't just the people, but you look on their statement of faith, like on their church website or something, and it actually has in the statement of faith something that is hurtful and harmful, whether it be to a woman, as we believe in churches and families being structured and led by men. Certainly, whether it relates to LGBTQ, we believe in marriage between one man and one woman. There are a lot of statements of faith that have that kind of language. And to me, that's not just people. Now you have enshrined that harm into the very fabric of the institution of the church, because it's part of your bylaws. It's part of your statement of faith. It's part of what defines you as a church. What is it about us where we feel the need to enshrine that kind of language in our very governing documents, to make it official? Like, have you had the experience where you've ever been a part of a church? Because of course, like, now we're spiritual leaders of our own congregations, but have you ever been a part of a church where you weren't welcome in that church? How did you deal with that?
So,
can you hear me? Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go.
That's why I wanted to create. That's why I wanted to create, or needed to create, Whosoever, because I grew up in churches like that.
Yeah.
I've always lived my truth. So when they found out that I was same gender loving, or when they found out that I don't know, that I loved all people, that I didn't discriminate against people, or that I didn't want to, condemn this person to hell or condemn that person to hell, or I was the one that always went and spoke and hugged everybody. It's going to be all right, because you got to have the clique, right, in the church. But this is why I created Whosoever, because I grew up in that, the Black Baptist Church. Now, this is part of my church hurt, but I sing. And I would sing all over in all the different churches and different states. I would sing. They wanted me to sing, but they didn't want me to be who I am, right?
Right.
So they were exploiting my gift. And I got tired of that. That's part of my church hurt. That's part of why I don't sing anymore. We want you to, can you come sing a good song? Can you come sing an A and B? But don't bring your girlfriend. Can you come and do this for us? And up in the Black Baptist Church didn't want me. They still don't. I'll tell you, one of my family members was supposed to have a funeral at the church I grew up in, the Black Baptist Church. And if you know me, you know what church it is. The funeral. The family wanted me to officiate the funeral. That church said, no, she can't come in this pulpit. Da, 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 da. Okay. So my family moved it across the street, so that I could be, so they saw me there. They saw to an AME. That's the church that I exploited my gifts the most. And they still don't want me there. If I think my wife is something to say, if I try to get if I want to be who I am, I'm welcome. So that's why, because I had several people come to me, can you start a church up? Can you do something in your basement? So me and my wife can come and learn about God. Can you have Bible study? So me and my boyfriend and I can come and be safe and feel comfortable. And so when I figured out or heard or began to see that there was really a huge need, especially for the LGBTQ Black community, that's where it all came from. Yes, I grew up like that, and they still don't want me there. But that's fine. So, yeah.
And it's a challenge because I think about this concept we call intersectionality, and how you would think that if you're going to a church, a group that is known for coming into its own existence because of not being accepted in other spaces. So, of course, in the case of the AME, you have these Black clergy who were not allowed to lead in white churches. And so they went and they started the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And yet then but yet they only move the needle forward for them and for their particular type of being, that is to say, their Blackness. But yet they can't apply in principle that same logic of liberation to people whose journeys may not look identical to theirs. Here we have another section of people, oh, but these are women. Or here you have another section of people, oh, but these are LGBTQ plus people. Let's separate it. Oh, but these are gays and lesbians. We can't have that. And then even beyond that, oh, but these are trans people. God didn't make a mistake. You have to be who you were born, right? And so they don't get, it's like it hasn't clicked that the story doesn't just have to be about that one thing that applies to you. Why can't you apply that same logic to other segments of the population? You mentioned they don't mind your gift. They don't mind your singing. And I think about that. There's an old saying that we give our time, talent, and treasure, our tithe, our talent, and our treasure, or is it time, whatever the case is. And I think about how they don't mind the tithe and the talent, but they don't want our truth in those spaces. And yet we still commit our tithe and we still commit our talents to those spaces. Why? Why do people continue to go to these spaces where they are continually hurt and harmed?
Because it's grandma's church. Because it's mama's church. Because that's where I grew up. Because I don't want to deal with what people will say. I don't want to deal with how people will react to me. Some people actually, as far as LGBTQ, let me say this. Some people feel like, well, I'm sinning, so I need to be over here where they're telling me how to not sin, how to not be gay. That's a truth. Some people, they just do not want to make better for themselves or feel like there's better for them. And because maybe they've lived this long, because, I was 40 something myself, overseer, when there were churches where LGBTQ LGBTQ people could go and be safe. I'm like, what is this? But I'm not, I don't understand. I don't understand, like now, especially in Kansas City, where there's this space offered, and there's so many of us out here that need or want a safe space and don't want to be judged, because we cry about it all the time, or we talk about the church hurt, but we continue to sit in those pews. It's a lack, I believe sometimes it's a lack of knowledge. So what they believe is what they've always heard from that pulpit, because they don't study or find out for themselves exactly or telling them. So what they do is just sit and hear what the pastor is saying, and that's it. So whatever they say, that's what I got to do, and I'm gonna sit here. But I guarantee you that inbox,
That
right?
part.
Pastor, can you pray? Pastor, can you counsel me and my woman, my wife? Pastor, can we wouldn't need all that. If you find you a safe space, you wouldn't have to hide, right? So yeah. And yeah, it's those that don't know that they need to be healed from the church hurt and the toxicity. Yes. Those that don't know, they just believe what they've been told all their life, and what mama and grandma on them is doing. So it's sad, hard, continues to hurt us. So
Absolutely. And I think that, so you mentioned about how these people, that there are some people who just don't know, right? But then there are some people who, like you said, they'll come to your inbox and ask you to be their medical doctor, right? And they make you the healer of their hurt. But then they go straight back to the spaces where they were hurt in the first place. So that tells me, if you knew to come to me, then you know the space exists where you can be accepted and affirmed. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come to me as a leader in those spaces. And yet you choose not to. It reminds me, I think it's in Deuteronomy, where God says, I put before you life and death. And the verse didn't stop there. He said, now choose life. And you read that and you're like, why should you have to tell them to choose life if their options are life and death? And the reason is because sometimes we have known death for so long: emotional death, spiritual death, relational death, psychological death, social death, financial death. We have known death for so long that when we get the option of life, it's hard to bring ourselves to choose it, because we don't know what it's going to look like on that side. I don't know what to do with liberation. What do you mean, follow you, Harriet Tubman? I don't know what being free is supposed to look like. And yet Harriet Tubman is spending all her money and time and effort and stuff and risking her life to provide a path to freedom. So you, as a Harriet Tubman of the great area, metropolitan area of Kansas City, who's giving your all to provide a space so that people can come and find answers in their healing, how does it affect you to know that there are some people who know you're there but won't come to actually help you build this space that they dip into every now and then when they get hurt, but dip right back out of and go back to their toxic spaces? As a leader in that space, what does that do to you?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because church hurt goes both ways.
Don't make me speak in tongues now.
We're there for the people, to help them heal and walk through their healing and find those safe spaces and affirming spaces. And then, like you said, bam, I'm here. You know what I'm trying to do. Yet you're trying to use me to help you to get to this space, but you're not supporting anything I'm trying to help you do or support this community at all. It's a slap to me. Somebody might hang up, but it's a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face. And when people come, when they do come through, if their healing doesn't come fast enough, or if it's uncomfortable for them, they either leave the space or this ain't right. This ain't. Well, if you're not willing to open your heart to healing, because you can't bring in what you came with. You when you came there, you were hurting and you were dealing with something that caused you to want to be healed. So you can't the fact that there has to be a change or a shift. And I'm not going, me as a affirming pastor, somebody that's trying to heal you from your church hurt, I'm not going to speak the same that the church that was hurt. It's not going to be the same. There's a different process to it. And it's more of a healing journey through the word of God to the word of God, so that then you can take what you've learned and how you're healing and help heal somebody else.
Yes.
But
And I love that how you talk about this, like you're not going to get it the same way here that you got it over there.
No.
But that's the whole point, is that you got hurt over there, but yet you come here and expect everything to be an exact duplicate of the very space that hurt you over there. And it's like, you need to be able to accept. So like when you walk into a hospital, it's going to smell different. It's going to look different because there's disinfectant around, and they're coming through with bleach and cleaning the floors and trying to keep the germs down. It's going to be a different environment because this is supposed to be a space of healing. And yet people are so, if I'm hearing you right, they're so drawn to a particular culture of church that they can't tolerate, quote unquote, or endure, quote unquote, a culture of healing, because it's not coming the way that they're accustomed to. Is that what you're saying?
That's it. And I tell people all the time, we're not, people say your music, you don't have enough, you don't have the right kind of music, the music that I'm used to. Okay. Our focus is not so much on music. It's more on learning how to heal and why God loves you the way you are, and how God loves you the way that you are, and why the things that you've been going through are not right in the church. If you're church hurt, that is not right. So, okay, we got music. We hired a whole band, Romeo. We hired a whole band because people said they want music. You're still not there. Do you want to heal or not? Are you church hurt or not? Are you tired of it or not? Church hurt goes both ways, and it slaps the pastor, the overseer, in the face all the time. And that's hurtful. That's hurtful. But we are supposed to stand in front of you and teach you the scripture, the way that you need to know how it is. So
as affirming as a space may be, then it sounds like there's still a requirement on the part of the one who has been hurt to take responsibility for their healing. I think about so if the doctor prescribes you some medication, they can't force you to take it. Right? They can't strap you down into the chair and inject you with stuff against your will. You have to be as committed to your healing as the healer is to helping you get the healer. And yet, from what it sounds like, that hasn't always been your experience in relation to people coming to get healed. Let me ask you this. One of the things that I have been rethinking in terms of what I am professing to the world about what it means to be affirming and what the sanctuary is. One of the things that I have been rethinking about that profession is the language of safe space, because as much as I think that language is helpful, sometimes I'm afraid that it's giving people the wrong idea or the wrong impression. What would you say about this question? Can affirming churches hurt someone?
Yes. And the reason I say that is because we come from all types, different type life experiences. We come from all kind of different understandings of life, God, spirituality, the way we grew up, our embedded theology.
My.
And if it does not your criteria or what you understand it to be or what you thought it should be, you can be hurt. You can be made to feel very uncomfortable, not want to do it anymore. And so the safe space talk is not necessarily that you'll never feel uncomfortable or even hurt by what comes from the church, the affirming church. The safe space means I or me as the leader will do my best to keep this space safe for you. But like you just said, overseer, you have to own your own healing. I can't give 97 different offerings of healing for 97 different people. What I do is a general, what is the understanding of how God intends for us to live and who God has said we are and how God says we did. I give a general because we're all humanity. We're all part, means it all applies. But you have to take that and do with it how is it going to help you heal? And if it's not for you, it's not. But I guarantee you, God has given a word of healing and understanding of healing to me to share with you because I've been there. I'm still hurting from the church, and I'm trying to help you while I'm over here struggling. You know what I'm saying? But I'm trying to help you, but it's not going to be specific every time I say something to Romel. And if you don't like it or if it bothers you, I am so sorry. Come talk to me about it. So yeah, the safety is I'm going to do my best to keep you emotionally safe because I'm not going to tell you how many times you're going to hell. I'm going to do my best to keep you spiritually safe because I'm not going to tell you that God does not love you because you did this, that, or the third. I'm going to do my best to keep you psychologically safe because I don't want you to go out here and unalive yourself because you think God don't love you. I'm going to do my best, but that does not mean that we're not going to feel something sometimes because not everything is for everybody.
And I think about like, so I guess there's two sides. On one end, I don't want people to have unhealthy expectations. When I say safe space, that means you can come in here and just never be hurt again. That's not realistic because guess what? This church, like every other church, is made up of, like you said, people, human beings who themselves are on their own journey. We think about church hurt and we always think about ourselves on the receiving end of it. But how many times have we been the one initiating the hurt on somebody else? In somebody else's testimony, how many times are we the villain? And we never think about the fact that we might be contributing ourselves to church hurt rather than just being the victim of it. But when you're in community and you know that our like you said, our goal is to be a healing community, that even when those missteps happen or even when those clashes of personality happen, we're still in covenant with each other because we know that we have a bond of love that is sincere and that wants to see one another. So giving that benefit of the doubt and giving that commitment to the process where you don't just turn around and run away the first time something happens that you don't like. But then on the other side, I think about how we have these, and I think maybe as leaders we've contributed to it, unfortunately, how we've caused people to have these unrealistic expectations of us. Like, as the spiritual leader of this church, as the pastor of this church, I have to always have a smile. I have to always be available when you call. I can never have a bad day. Damien and me fussing on the way to church. Now I got to get here and smile and act like the Lord is all over this thing. You and Lee fussing and fighting on the way to church, but then you got to get there and make it right for everybody else, even though you're just crying on the inside, right? And so we have this say something about that, about how we have to put on this cape with this big, S for spiritual leader or big P for pastor, and we can't ourselves be safe. I tell my ministers all the time, I'm gonna let you talk. I tell my ministers a lot in our training that the fact that we have to make this a safe space for other people means it becomes less safe for us. Say something about that. Uh-oh, I think she froze. I'm so looking forward to hearing this answer though, because this is powerful stuff. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. So did you hear me, Pastor D? Go ahead.
What you said?
Yeah, so say something about that idea of these unhealthy expectations that we tend to have of creative, of spiritual leaders, of pastors, of having to always be on and always be perfect because we are expecting from them a facility of never ever being hurt. So if they say anything cross to us, if they snap at us, they had a bad day, then it's, we've made them out to be the devil because we've given them no grace because they have to be perfect for us. What does that do to you, even as a pastor?
Ooh, it is very stressful for me at times because, like you said, we have to act like, no, not act like, let me erase that because I don't want nobody to say, we have to make sure that in these spaces, people see that it's okay, that we're okay. How can you move me forward or help me move forward if you're not? If you're having a bad day, like you said, as soon as I have a bad day, or as soon as I say the word, or as soon as I, speak how I really feel, but you're supposed to be the pastor.
Right.
You the pastor, you talking like that? Yeah, because I got a heart. I have a conscience. I have I have skin and I'm gonna at times I need to share how I know that I'm human, right? So we can't
Yes, Lord.
it's this microscope. I feel like sometimes it's a microscope on us because like Lee and I get messages a lot. Y'all, I love y'all. Y'all the best couple. Y'all don't know how human we are behind these doors. We're human.
Yes.
She get on my nerves, I get on hers. And like you said, on the way to church sometimes, it's just, it can be so stressful. And like you said, as soon as you don't show up as the super Negro, something ain't right.
You
You ain't
preaching.
doing it right. But you started it. You said it because you know, right? We have to do this, and it's not for acting. It's just that we have to bring to the table a certain Romel. We have to bring to the table a certain Dionne. We have to bring to the table because people are looking at us like what you got for me today?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
And sometimes I feel like it's almost like they
yes,
want
super
us
neat.
to fail because somehow it invalidates what it is that we're trying to do. Like somewhere deep inside, they don't think it's supposed to exist in affirming space. And so sometimes it's like they get some kind of pleasure with the idea of the church failing or a church closing its doors or a church because see, the Lord told me that wasn't right. No, how it's like I don't. It's like I. You know how we oftentimes in the Black community talk about crabs in the barrel? Sometimes I wonder if that same phenomenon doesn't exist in the
Correct.
affirming community.
Mhm. I believe it does. And I mean, people will show you. Like you said, soon as my wife calls it a theme song. They just waiting on the theme song. They just waiting on the commercial to come so they can bounce, right? And so as soon as something happens, they're out, like you said, and then here it comes. That's why this I knew this wasn't right, and I knew you wouldn't, and it's you're not, but you give the other church, you go sit up in them hurtful pews, you sit in them all day. And the pastor and preacher will tell you how much of an abomination and how much of a failure you are, how much God don't love you. That's okay. But yeah, you're right. When we say that there's a different way to understand and know God, and there's a different way and a real way that God loves you just the way you are. Yeah, they got one foot out the door and the other foot they got their heel out waiting for you to mess up so that they can say, yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. And they'll leave and watch you. I have a bunch of people that do that. They've left whosoever, but why are you still here? Why are you on? We can see who sees the page in the post. Why are you still here? Want to come on back and be healed? Come on back. You know what I'm saying? So I believe that it is. Because I didn't come up with the idea or because you didn't fix me. I'm not supposed to fix you. I'm giving you tools that you can go and talk to God about your healing, and you and God work out your fix. I'm just here to give you the tools and the resources. I'm not the fixer. But you got to be willing, and you got to be open to there's a different way. There's a new way to be loved by God in your community. There's the right way, but you got to be open to it and not tear it down because it made you uncomfortable one day.
Right.
Man,
I love that I'm a resource. I'm not the source. So I'm just helping
right.
you to get to the one who can heal. But don't think that I'm perfect. Because then what wind up happening is when I have one of those off moments, then now I'm the one causing the church hurt, but there was no grace extended toward me.
No.
So I was thinking about the dynamic of this conversation, which I love, by the way. And I was thinking, see, I know that when people tune in to a conversation like this, they expect to hear only the perspective of the people in the pews being hurt. But oftentimes we never think about the other side of that coin, about those who are leading these communities of health, of wholeness and healing and affirmation, also being subject to being hurt and still preaching through broken hearts and still preaching through tear-stained pillows and still ministering. And they trying to patch you up while they bleeding.
Woo.
And so I'm very glad to have been able to bring
We
at
bleed.
least some insight to the other side of that story, because both of those are equally legitimate and both of those need to be attended to. And I think that I love to use the phraseology of covenant when I talk about church membership, because I think that people hear membership and they think of a club. This is a covenant. It's like a marriage. It's a covenant that we are making with each other. But that means it's not just me making covenant with you to be this in your life, but you're also making a covenant with me. Because when my arms get tired, I need somebody holding my arms up, right? So I love having this dual-sided conversation about church hurt. What do we do? What do we do when, whether from the pulpit or the pew, what do we do when, so we've acknowledged the fact that we have to own our own process. We have to own that hurt and be seeking for ourselves that healing. What do we do when we've come to an affirming space? We've made connection, we've made covenant, but that space doesn't have all of the resources that we may need in order to be healed. I'm thinking specifically about like mental health. One of the conversations that I had a few weeks ago. What do we do when we've reached the limit of what that particular community can provide? Do we leave the church and go find another church? What do we do in those situations?
Believe that that's when we become the church, but we can also add the professional, mental state, because that's very real. Counseling, because the hurt is deep, just like any other psychological or sociological hurt, right? And so we seek out those professionals, but we can, like you said, we can bring that together. We need to leave the church, like you said, so far. And it depends on where you are in that hurt. Some people are to the space, and you know this, they ready to end it all because of what Pastor such and such said to me on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? That's deep. And I may not be able to walk you out of that. So you couple that with those resources and those professionals and speaking to others. And there's church hurt groups, so finding the resources and bringing them all together, just like you do anything else. Because some people will say, you don't need therapy, you just pray. You need, just talk to God. No. This is why God gave the brain to the therapists and the psychologists and those people that know how to talk with you, even in your church hurt. So yeah, I feel like we should couple that. You don't have to necessarily leave your church, especially if your church is helping you. If your church has helped you to get to where I'm ready. I need some more. I need something deeper. I'm feeling better about this, and I want to know what's next, or how can I move further in my healing? Because I guarantee you that church hurt is spilling all over your life, because it's spirit. And we ain't nothing but spirits. So I guarantee you it's just some kind of way affecting everything about you. And so the pastor, preacher, overseer, leader may not have all that you need. I know all of us don't. I know we don't. So that's why there's professionals. Yeah, we couple that together, just like we do anything else. Just like we do anything else.
And I love that, because it's like, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was thinking about maybe like 12-step program, the 12-step program where you go to your meetings and all that, but there's other things that you still need to do to help you to continue to heal and move forward in that. It's the same type of thing to me. It's the same type of thing. You get all the resources that you can, because church hurt is very real. Church hurt is more real than so many people want to believe or even know, right? And it's not just LGBTQ. We know that. My sister's on here. She's not LGBTQ. She's been hurt by the church. Like you said, if you've been in church for more than 5 days, you've been hurt. You might not realize it. You might not realize it, but yes, gather all the resources that you can use, that will help you That will help
I
you.
love that because I'm afraid that we, and I think this is especially true in the Black church, we tend to see the pastor as the one-stop shop to everything I need. And so the pastor has to be a life coach, a financial advisor, a therapist, and a psychiatrist, because technically they're not the same thing. You know, a doctor,
That's
has to
right.
be a lawyer, come bail you out of jail, has to be an advocate, has to be a personal attorney, has to be a life insurance. We have to be all things to all people. And that's been driving some of us to the grave early, sometimes at our own hands, just trying to get away from it all, because what human being can thrive under that kind of weight? So to be able to tell people, baby, you have reached the limits of my capacity, but I have a phone number for you
Yes.
where you can go and get some additional help beyond what I'm able to provide, and I'll walk through it with you. I'm still in covenant with you, and I'm here to walk you through it with you, but I've gone as far as I can go. To me, one of the most liberating things was learning how to refer out, because I can't do everything.
Yeah. And when you can't, they get mad. What you mean? You the past?
You the pastor.
Look up what the word pastor means, and then you'll know. Leave me alone. Like you said, I'll walk with you. I'll walk with you, but I can't. I'm not the fixer. I'm not the fixer.
Amen.
So
Amen.
yeah.
I put a
Mm.
I put a link on the screen for everybody, in case you want to come on and share an experience of church hurt that you have had. If you want to ask Pastor Dionne a question, that's talk.faitevolution.show. Now I know my audience is not big enough right now to where there's enough people who will get a few people on, because everybody's real shy and timid. But just in case you are on and would like to come and just share an experience that you've had, or ask our guest a question, you can certainly feel free to do that at this time. I'm really enjoying this conversation because it's similar to the conversation that I had in our last thing, where it was about mental health. Because I think that as much as we desire to provide a space of healing, I I want to make sure that we don't give people false expectations that wind up causing even more hurt, but that we have to be committed to their healing, that they have to be committed to their healing, and that we can walk this walk together, so that neither one of us continue to contribute to one another's hurt, but that we're all positive forces and positive um, influences in one another's respective journeys, because those journeys won't look all the same. And I also love the fact that you brought out, this isn't just an LGBTQ thing. We talked about it a lot because it has a lot to do with our own journeys. But church hurt isn't just an LGBTQ thing. I remember recently there was that video that went viral of the church bringing that woman down, that young woman down to the altar, and making her apologize. Don't touch this altar now. Don't touch this table. But making her apologize to the congregation for being pregnant. And the mother went online and typed this long message telling everybody leave them alone. And you heard, we're fine. And everything she said was about her and about her pastor. But I didn't find her saying anything about her daughter, who was the one that was actually drugged in front of this church and hurt. And so it's sad that sometimes we have to leave our mother and father, like God told Abram at the time, leave your father's house and from your kinfolk and go out to a faraway country where I shall take you. And sometimes we have to be willing to go to a faraway country that looks a little different than what we might be accustomed to, in order to find the healing that we need. So I was kind of trying to give some time for anybody to come on who may be on and want to join the conversation. You look like you have frozen, my guest. Are you still there? Can
I'm
say
here.
okay, good. Because sometimes
I'm
the
here.
video freezes, but the audio doesn't. Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm
Excellent.
not. I don't know what's going on. I'm here.
Amen. So tell people how they can get in touch with you if they wanted to reach out and share with you their experiences and touch bases with whosoever community of faith. How can people reach you?
So we do have well, email would probably be best to have a conversation. Whosoever, doc@gmail.com. If you want to have a conversation with me, that would be great. You can reach out to me via Facebook through our Whosoever church page as well. We also have a website where you can leave uh, conversation or questions, and that is whosoeverdoc.com. So there's several ways. My phone number, my church number, is on that website. I don't know it by heart, but it is on that website. So yeah, you can email me. You can reach out to me via Facebook Messenger, or Facebook through our Whosoever page, or my personal page. But I'm here for it. I'm here to chat. I do it all day, every day, and this is what God has given me to share with those that are looking for or wanting to move forward in healing and understand um, more about church hurt and things like that. So yeah, I see where I'm frozen, but I don't know. It looks like I'm praying. I don't know why it's not, but you can hear me.
I can hear you just fine. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And I'll
Um,
just say to the audience, please, 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 if you are hurting, if you
yeah.
are, don't suffer in silence. Reach out. There are so many resources that are available, especially now, where there are resources that are available, especially now, that weren't available 10, 15, 20 years ago. And
Exactly.
so Whosoever Community of Faith is a resource. Take advantage of these resources that we didn't have when we were going through our own processes and journeys. And so I really hope that people take you up on your offer, Pastor D, and reach out and get the help that you are so faithfully offering and providing to people. I saw a comment of someone asking about where to come on. That's talk. The website address is talk.faitevolution.show. Talk.faitevolution.show. Just type that into your browser and you'll be able to come on to share and to ask any questions that you may have for our guest this evening. In the meantime, Pastor D, any other thoughts that you wanted to share? Anything that may be on your heart?
I really appreciate the opportunity to share in this conversation, and I'm like you. Let's uh, have conversations around what keeps us in these hurtful spaces. I
Mm,
think having conversations about why what keeps us going back to a space that clearly hurts our heart, our psyche, our mind, sometimes our physical bodies. It's just mind blowing. And especially here in the Kansas City, Missouri metro area, where Whosoever is the only ministry of its kind, led by someone of color from the LGBTQ community. We're right here. And so I would love to have more conversation about what keeps us in these unhealthy spaces, spiritually unhealthy spaces, because it affects our entire life. And we're already in a space right now in these times that we don't need any more stress. We don't
hello?
need any more things that trigger us. And so working on our spiritual health is advantageous for us right now. It is good for us to work on what keeps us healthy, um, in lieu of pushing it to the side, because right now we need a community that let me say it right. I don't want to say nothing. We need a community that is, like you said, in covenant with moving forward in the spaces of God. the spaces that God intended, right? I'm trying to tell us to be more open to what God has for us, and not worry so much about what's happening around us. But when we're not in community, it's harder for us to see that there is hope. When we're not in community, it's harder for us to see that there are others that are walking alongside us. And so if we're out here by ourselves trying to figure it out, it makes it much harder. And so if we can come together in spaces that say to you, you're welcome here. No, you're affirmed here, because welcoming and affirming is two different things. You're affirmed here. It helps us to say, to breathe a little bit, and not worry so much about what's going on around us, because we will know and understand and learn that God has a different plan than this world. And it's just so much harder, Romeo, and it's so much harder to do that of your own. So when you come together with people that are like-minded, and people that are maybe dealing with some of the same things, it's very helpful. And so I would like for us to continue conversation around what would bring us to places like the sanctuary, what would bring us to places like whosoever, and what's keeping us from that. Why is it keeping us away from places that actually love us,
Amen. I really hope that the people watching and listening really heard what you just said, because it was so important. You spent some time tending to this issue of community, and tending to that issue in a way of letting people know that they can't do this alone.
Right.
It's so important that people come to understand that you've been hurt, but you can't back out of this journey. Just find another space that affirms you, that accepts you, that embraces you, but don't quit this thing altogether, because you need community. I see that people think about passages like, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together, as is the manner of some, and they think, why we got to go to church. I plan to do a whole episode just about why church attendance is important, because we've overcorrected some of the legalistic ways of approaching church attendance by saying I don't need to go to church at all. Yes, the heck you do, because being in community is vitally important. And the idea that somehow we have what we need to do this alone. To me, honestly, I know it's coming from a place of hurt, but it's also kind of arrogant to think that you're the onlyest one on God's green earth who don't need nobody else. Like Vicky Wine, as long as I got King Jesus, I don't need nobody else. Really though?
Really?
Because King Jesus, we praise God for King Jesus, but King Jesus can't prescribe you that Advil, that King Jesus can't mend that. I mean, obviously he can, but my point is we need each other. Yes. And I don't want the experiences that we have had in the church, which we affirm, right? That you have been hurt. We don't take away from that, but I don't want those experiences to rob you,
right, of
your church experience. So thank you for naming that. And I really, really hope that people heard that, and that they take advantage of these resources that have been made available. Like you said, in Kansas City, it's there. Yes. All people have to do is tap in and connect. And nowadays, we're not even limited geographically. We have options of virtual distance ministry. And so it's a great opportunity to get connected now that those resources are even more available than they ever have been. And so we are truly without excuse at this point. So I see that there's somebody who was trying to come on. So are you having trouble getting in? Let me give you another link just in case you've been having trouble getting in. I'm going to type another link. But this is not as easy to, if you can click this link in the chat, it can perhaps get you where you need to go. But I'm posting it on my own wall, so you may not see it in every link. But I want to put it on screen again because somebody said they were having trouble getting in. The talk.faitevolution.show is intended to be an easy way to type it in to bring you where you need to go. But this is where it actually redirects you. So if you can click that link that I've put now in the chat, that can get you on here if you needed to come on and share your experience. But yes, community. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna say this, Pastor D, because I know you my friend, and I can have this conversation with you in ways that I can't have with anybody else.
Yes, sir.
And so we're gonna pull the veil back and let them see the real us, right?
Yes.
You know how hurtful it is to be like, there was like 2 affirming churches during my journey of coming into affirmation that I knew of. One was in Atlanta, Georgia, the Vision Cathedral, back then it was called Vision Church. And the other that I knew about was in Los Angeles, California. And that was 2 of them actually. It was Dr. Flunder's church. And then it was also Bishop Hawkins' church. Bishop Walter Hawkins had church, the Love Center Church. Those are the only ones that I knew about. And so now they have popped up so many places. And it's like, why just sit home? And why just, you got a place right there in your area.
Yes.
And you won't take advantage of it.
Yes.
Part of me wants to like slap you because I'm like, I wish I had that available when I was going through my journey, through my process. And if you don't have that, and that you do have that and don't take advantage of it, it's like, what must I do? What? It's like there's a song that says in the old, the Black church, he gave his life. What more could he give? And sometimes like we have given everything we got to give to make this space available. And as you say, and you Negroes won't come 2 miles down the road to come take advantage of it. So say something. I know you got something to see that you can add to that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm with you. It's hurtful. I don't understand. We've been doing this for 7 years, right? We've been doing this for 7 years. And so our faithful few are still around. They hang out, they come and get what they need. But according to Whosoever's Facebook poll, the information that it gives us, there are 653 people in our Whosoever group that live in this area.
Wow.
That apparently are interested or have some type interest in Whosoever because they're in our Facebook group. But you're right here. You're right here. And what you've told me on a few occasions is that you don't have enough music. And I promise that's usually what it is. You don't have enough music. Okay, that's cool. So we hire a whole live band. And they're there. They're awesome. And I still don't see you. I still don't see you. You tell me you need it. You're in my inbox telling me what you need and what your other friends ain't getting but you're not showing up to support what we got going on or to help yourself to heal.
Yes.
Are you really wanting to heal? Or are you comfortable in that rut? Like my wife say, you in a comfortable rut and you just, that's where you gonna be. I don't have a problem with that so much if I wouldn't have a problem with that so much if you weren't reaching out to me privately. Because that's not supporting what we're trying to do. Yeah. And it's not about, because I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm saying. It's not about numbers and people in the seats and in the pews. What it's about is growing a community that, like you said, is in covenant with one another, that is walking together in this healing. And so, and then also, and I know you know this, the pastor and the pastor's wife and the pastor's sister and mama can't do everything in the church. right? And so when you get mad because we ain't have the right kind of juice for communion, or because this wasn't done that day or this way, well, if you aren't coming and being a part of that community, or bringing people to that community, then this is what you get.
Yeah.
Come into community with us and help us build something beautiful. That's what it's about. Where are you
Amen.
going every Sunday? What you doing? What are you
I,
doing?
I remember I was told also for the sanctuary that a person I was told this more than once actually, but that our music, they wanted the black church, particularly in this case, like traditional black church musical
Yep.
experience
Yep.
of the
Yep.
bumping and this and that.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, okay, but it's not in our bylaws that we can't have church like that.
Yeah.
But a church is comprised of its people.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are a part of that church and a
Mm-hmm.
part of its community, then you're bringing that interest and you're bringing that talent and you're bringing that with you. So that
Yeah.
helps to craft and to develop us further to even provide what it is that you desire. It's like
That's it.
that idea that people say, be the change you want to be. Well, if you want that experience, you're a
That's it.
part of what will help to flavor
Mm-hmm.
this community to have that experience.
That's
And so,
it.
yeah, it's interesting to me how we want everything just like we had it in
Yeah.
in our previous experience,
Yeah.
but yeah, we don't want to be a part of actually
Yeah.
creating that
Yeah.
experience. And that's one of the reasons I think some people enjoy joining mega churches
Mm-hmm.
because they want to go somewhere where everything is up and running and they can just sit back
Man.
and be
Yeah.
poured into, but never have anything expected of them. And I'm
Yes.
like, at some point, you have to take responsibility for also being a part of this community. And it's
Yes.
not just about coming to get what you can get, but also coming to give what you can give.
That's it.
Because the people who are helping you to heal, what happens when they're hurting, but you're only there to get what you get? Can you
That's it.
also be a part of healing other people who are hurting
Yes.
too?
Yeah.
I use the example when I preach about this, being a vampire. We're only there to just suck the life out of everything else,
That's
but
it.
we're not there to actually pour into and
Mm-hmm.
help this community to grow and develop so that it can be a resource for other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is so true and real. And it's like you you don't want to, that we are a new ministry, so to speak, or that we're a smaller ministry. So you come twice and it ain't what you thought or what you wanted needed to be, so you're out. Or I've been told, I'm not used to your kind of preaching, teaching, because I don't hoop, I don't holler, I don't jump across the pews. That's not, I don't, you know. So, it's all kind of stuff that people say it's not good enough, or I don't have the patience for it. But if you want to be, if you want that healing, be there so that you can be a part of it, but also, like you said, so that you can help others, because you
Yeah.
want somebody to help you. That's why you're there.
Right, right.
So you got to give too. So you got to give too.
We have a weekly prayer call on Tuesdays, Tuesday evenings, at same night as this, right? So it's right before the broadcast. And I told my church, I said, I don't want the only time that I hear you on the prayer call is when you have a request,
Well,
because somebody got to be here to pray when you got the request. So why can't you be here to pray when
woo,
everything is fine in your life, but somebody else has the request, right?
boy,
So absolutely. So
I
listen, before I
yeah.
forget, Carlos Smith asked a question earlier. So thank you again for commenting, Carlos, because that reminded me that you asked a question earlier. You asked, what is affirming? So Pastor D, can you answer that for Carlos? What does it mean to be affirming? And then you mentioned welcoming earlier and said it was different. So what's the
Yeah.
difference between welcoming and affirming?
Okay, so let me say it, let me do it this way. Welcoming and affirming are two different things. We can welcome you. I welcome you into the church. I welcome you into my house. I welcome you. I welcome you. You're welcome. But you're gonna sit on this back pew back here, and I don't want you to do nothing. Just make sure you put your tithes in, because you're welcome. But when you are affirmed, that means that I affirm, or I am good with, or I agree that God has created you the way that you have been created for this, for your purpose. Whatever that is, I'm not here to judge it. I just affirm that God created you the way that you are, and I love you for it. I'm affirming. I'm agreeing with you in that. I don't want to just say, you're welcome to be here. It's welcome signs all over the place. It's welcome sign when you get to Kansas, or when you get to Pennsylvania, or whatever. But that don't mean you good in there. That don't mean that what you got, everybody's gonna accept, or who you are, everybody's gonna accept. So yeah, there's two different. They mean two different things. I welcome you into my home. I want you to come in my front door. But my wife ain't gonna let you just start pulling out pots and pans and just start cooking. But if I affirm that who God made you to be was this awesome cook, and we ask you to come, and we say, hey, come on in here and do what you do, because that's who God created you to be. That's what you do. That's what we do. So yeah, I affirm, I agree that this is who God has created you to be, and I love you for it. It's real simple. I hope I'm explaining it okay, but it's just, it's a step further than just welcoming someone, because you welcome someone and stop them at the door. That means nothing to me. But if you affirm who I am and allow me to be a part of leadership, or allow me to be a part of the church, do things within the church, help the church to grow, lead, like I said, lead, whatever, just allowing who I am to be a part of that ministry, or a part of that organization, or a part of that group, I'm affirming that that's who you are. And I'm good with that. It matters not to me. So that's what I feel affirming is. That's how I explain it. So
I love it. I was on a podcast actually earlier today, where somehow that came up, and the question was, or what I said was, sometimes welcoming becomes like a bait and switch. Like they tell you you're welcome, but once you get in there, you can't do anything except give.
or they tell you welcome. We love you. Come on in here. You there for 3 weeks, and then here comes somebody, ex-lesbian, to tell you how you need to be changed, and how God, you need to do it the way that God is doing it, because I did it. That is a bait and switch. You are welcome, but now that you're here, let me tell you what you need to do. And in an affirming space, that should not come up. That should not happen, because I've already affirmed that you are who you are.
Yes.
And I love you for it.
That's it. And your camera is off, so I'm gonna do it for you. When you said ex-lesbian, we're gonna put that in air quotes,
thank you,
because that's not actually a thing.
Yeah, thank you. My camera, it just went off too. My camera, I didn't turn it off. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I understand.
But yeah, thank you. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. You got it. That bait and switch, boy.
It's real, because I've seen people do it. I remember before the UMC had their split, I remember they would put commercials on TV about welcoming everybody. And I even saw they had a commercial with a gay couple in the church, and he had his arm around a pew around a person when they were sitting in church. And I was like, oh, UMC is affirming. Okay, cool. And then come to find out, it's not affirming. And they were sitting people out of the pulpit for being openly gay and stuff. And I'm like, so you're putting these commercials out there making people feel like you accept and embrace them. But then when they get in there, all they're able to do is sit in the pew and give. But they can't serve. So I love the fact that you talked about affirming means you're embraced fully in this community, even in leadership. It's like, it's like a church, for example. I talked about misogyny in our first episode, or was it the first? No, second episode. It's like, it's amazing to me how a church claims to be, not discriminating against women, and to be open and embrace women and serving in the body, and yet your entire leadership structure is full of men. I don't want to just be affirmed on paper. I don't want to just be welcome on paper. I need to see it in the life of the church. I need to see it in the leadership of the church. So absolutely. And it's the same thing with white churches. I say white churches because we talk about black churches, but people just say it's not a white church, it's just a mainstream church. If 99.9% of your church is white, it's a white
It's a
church.
white church.
But 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 we also see it there where you may have a speckle of pepper throughout the congregation, but
Mhm.
the entire leadership
Yep.
is white,
Yep.
right? And so it's like you can't tell me that I'm affirmed if I don't see myself.
That's it.
People say representation matters, right? If I don't see my
Mhm.
constituencies
That's
as
it.
a black person,
Mhm.
as a man in my case, as
Yeah.
a gay person, right?
Yeah.
You know, if I were trans, as a trans person, I
Mhm.
need to see myself in order to know that I'm truly fully welcome. So I'm so glad that you named that.
Yeah.
Listen, there were a couple of people who came on who I saw some comments about people who were attempting to come on tonight and were not able to get on. I'm going to try to see if I can figure out what's going on with that because I absolutely want you all to be a part of this conversation. So I
Mhm.
apologize, but I certainly hope that by next week we'll have that sorted out and we'll be able to get you all on. And I'll probably reach out to you just to kind of ask what's happening, what problem you're getting. Are you getting a particular error message or what exactly is happening as you're attempting to come on? Because I do want to make sure that this is a space where not just me and my guests, but also the audience are all in
Mhm.
conversation because these conversations absolutely do matter. I just heard the ding, which tells me that somebody has come on. So hopefully, um, so I think that is, that's the other D, that's D2. I got you. So you were able to come in twice. So I wonder why somebody else wasn't able to come in. That's interesting. I love you too, my Eden sister. So this is one of my Eden colleagues. We went to
All
Eden
right.
Theological Seminary here in St. Louis, Missouri, in
Awesome.
pursuit of our MDiv degree. And so thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate your support very much. I appreciate your support very much. Um, all right. So again, thank you so much, Pastor D, for coming on and for sharing and for helping to provide context to
Mhm.
both sides of this church hurt issue, for
Yes.
validating that hurt, the fact that it does exist. I appreciate that because again, I've seen so many people become apologists for the church. And I'm like, you can love the church and still acknowledge when it's wrong.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's
Yes.
like people today nowadays they act like if you criticize the state of Israel that somehow you're anti-Semitic. I
Right.
can support Israel's right to exist without
Mhm.
agreeing with everything they do,
Yeah.
right? And to me,
Exactly.
part of loving the church is holding it accountable
Yeah.
because you want it to be better. You want it to live up to its potential. And so I'm
Mhm.
so grateful for the work that you're doing, both in
Thank you.
Kansas City and online, to
Thank
provide that space for people. I challenge once again my listening audience, if you're in the Kansas City area, or even if you can attend virtually and want to be a part of what Pastor D is doing at whosoever community of faith, finding answers in the healing, please
Yes.
reach out. Please reach out, connect, see how you can contribute to what's going on there, help to build that ministry because we want to make sure that it's there for people when they need it.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I'll leave it at that. So thank you again for sharing. I want to apologize for those in my audience who wanted to be on tonight, but I will be certainly looking into making sure that that doesn't happen for our future episodes. Any I want to say any final words, but I don't want it to seem like you're about to get executed. Any parting words that you may have for our listening audience, Pastor D?
I really appreciate the opportunity to share this with your audience. I really do. It is, like you said, the title, is it real? It is absolutely real. And until we understand, believe, and accept that, we're going to continue to cause church hurt, live in church hurt, see church hurt, hear about it. It's just it's a wound that has to be healed in a specific way, and it's not easy. It gets very uncomfortable, but it can be done, and it will be done as long as you are open to it. But church hurt is extremely real. It is one of the most realest hurts, and I said that earlier, and I'm saying it now because it's a spiritual.
Mm,
It's not an external wound. It's an internal hurt. It's an internal pain, right? And we connect our church and our church leaders to God. We connect. That's when we hear our overseers and our pastors and our leaders speaking to us about kingdom building, work, God, Jesus, the cross. We are connecting them. They're telling us something. They're giving us a message from who we worship. And so that's how we connect it. And that's what makes it very hurtful and painful when we are hurt by the church, the body of Christ. The pews don't hurt us. The pews don't hurt us, but the people sitting in them do. And so we have to be aware of that and be better stewards, like you said, because we can hurt people. We can be church hurting people. We need to be aware of that and just know that. How does that feel? What does that look like? Have I seen this before? Have I felt this before? Oh, okay, I shouldn't have did that. I shouldn't have said that. Let me go back and fix it. But being aware that it is real and continuing to have these conversations. Thank you, Romel, for this platform, period. And so, yeah, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. You know, I'll message you at 3:00 in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Like, is you up?
And usually I'm like, yep.
Yep. Yep. My wife, who you talk to, Romel? But yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity and everybody that was here. I see my wife is on here, and she gonna tell you. She gonna tell you over and again what it looks like from her perspective, as I'm sure Elder can too. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about this camera, buddy. I don't know. It just went off.
It happens. It happens. And you mentioned your wife, and I love that you mentioned that, because we talked about church hurt from the pews, and then we talked about church hurt from the pulpit. But then think about the idea of church hurt from pulpit adjacent.
Yes.
Right? Our spouses being hurt, and then also being hurt because they see us being hurt. So that's like a whole different dynamic to what the pastor's spouses go through. Yes. And so, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I think I'm gonna have to do a conversation and a whole nother session and just interview our spouses to just kind of get their perspective, because that's real too. So
that's why they connect. Yeah, that's why those two connect. And my wife, she's short but mighty, small but mighty. She will let you know. You know what I'm saying? So they don't want to see us hurt.
Absolutely.
And like you said, it does go both ways. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you so much, Pastor Dionne Boyice, for coming on tonight and for sharing this message of affirmation, for sharing this. Yes, it's good. Yes, we don't dismiss it. We're here and we care and we want to help you heal. So thank you so much for giving voice to that. I look forward, saints and friends, to seeing you all 1 week from tonight at 8:00 p.m. Central Time as we continue these important and real conversations right here on Faith Evolution. I love you all. Have a wonderful night. Good night.